Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining.
Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. On Saturday night, the Grizzlies lost on the road to the Chicago Bulls. They lost 125-96. It got away from them in the second half, to say the least. On this episode, I'm going to talk about that defeat. But before I get there, just a word to let you know that this upcoming Friday on January 26th, I'll be hosting a Grizzlies watch party in Nashville at Noble's Beer Hall. This season has not gone the way we wanted, but guess what? I still have a lot of Grizzlies prizes to give away. So we're going to have a few more watch parties this year, and we will have one this Friday as the Grizzlies take on the Orlando Magic. So if you were anywhere near Nashville, come on down to Noble's Beer Hall. The game's at 7. I will be there with other Grizzlies fans giving away Grizzlies prizes. It'll be a lot of fun. Don't miss it. Tell a friend. See you there. Noble's Beer Hall this Friday, January 26th, 7 p.m. Grizzlies Magic. I'll be giving away Grizzlies prizes. All right. This was the Grizzlies' 9th loss of the season by 20 or more. That is the second most such losses in the NBA this year, only trailing the Trail Blazers. Like I said, they were in it until it got away from them. They took the lead in the third quarter. They rallied from 15 down because of Jaren Jackson Jr.'s great play, because of Luke Kennard's great play. They actually took the lead, but once they got that lead, the Bulls responded with a 24-4 run. Kobe White was just pushing the ball up the Grizzlies' throats. No one was picking him up. The Grizzlies stopped scoring and defending at the same time, it felt like. And then when the Bulls ran away with it, I think we were all left with this taste in our mouths about how terrible some of our bench guys were. And I think making the main takeaway from this game that Ziaire Williams is terrible is not the main takeaway we should have. But nonetheless, I think that's one that stuck in Grizzlies fans' minds. But let's go back to the start of the game. The Grizzlies, of course, extremely shorthanded, were also missing Xavier Tillman. So Xavier Tillman dealing with a little knee issue. He's out. That's not great. So you think, all right, this is the opportunity for Santi Aldama to get his chance. So they obviously started Santi. I don't know what else he would really do other than play small ball or extreme small ball. I guess you could have started Gigi Jackson or something, or Roddy. But again, no thank you. They started their typical Luke Kennard, Vince Williams Jr., John Conchar, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Santi Aldama. And it was fine while the starters were in there. This game began with basically some really poor offense by both teams. Maybe you'd say good defense. The Grizzlies were having trouble scoring, and I might have a main takeaway from this game just with how the offense was so putrid again, and it seemed to be the shot selection was so poor. Like, this was once again a game where the Grizzlies seemingly didn't care about attacking the paint at all. They just settled for three-pointers, and they also didn't rebound. And this is a pattern we've seen before this year. Games where you're shorthanded, all of a sudden, no one is trying to make the defense bend. No one is trying to get past their guy. They're just settling for three-pointers. And so I thought the first quarter, even if the starters were hanging in there, it was especially putrid. And the numbers that bear this out for me, it's that the Grizzlies in the first quarter were just 2 out of 5 on 2-pointers. They only took 5 2-pointers. Meanwhile, they were 4 for 15 on 3-pointers. They missed 14 of their 20 shots. They got 0 offensive rebounds. So first quarter, 0 offensive rebounds, 4 turnovers, 2 made 2-pointers, and this kept going the whole game. I mean, eventually, Jaren would have a drive. Roddy would actually take it into the paint. But through 3 quarters, the Grizzlies had 1 offensive rebound. They had 4 steals through 3 quarters, and they got 3 of those steals in the first 5 minutes. So you had like a 30-minute stretch there where the Grizzlies picked up 1 steal and 1 offensive rebound. That is not basketball. It's not. It's something else. Just settling for 3-pointers from poor 3-point shooters, unwatchable. And so it was a big frustration for me, I think, watching this game. I know it's been a tough season and we don't have the expectation of winning going into these games, but you hope they're at least going to be competitive. And they were competitive for basically 30 minutes of the game. But the manner in which they played this game, which was not rebounding, not forcing turnovers, and just launching 3-pointers, made it particularly hard to watch. Then when the offense totally dried up, then you saw the Bulls pull away. And as much as we want to blame the bench, they deserve some blame. I guess if you really want to blame the bench, you could point to the fact that the Grizzlies won the minutes where Jaren, Vince, and Luke were on the court by 6 points. Those guys played 22 minutes together. The Grizzlies won those 22 minutes by 6 points. So that's an argument for the bench losing the game. But the Grizzlies were down 17 at the end of the third quarter. They had 69 points. They had a 17-point first quarter, scored 40 in the first half. You have a pretty solid third quarter, scoring 29 points to get to that 69 points. But when the Bulls took over the game in that third quarter, it was the starters on the court. And things didn't get truly out of hand until that fourth quarter. And so I know, obviously, we need more from the bench, and that's a mild understatement, but the Grizzlies could have done better while their best players were in the game and basically stop shooting all those 3-pointers. I know we want this 3-point attack, but it's the wrong shooter shooting, and the other team is just allowing you to shoot them. They're daring you to shoot them. I should talk about Jaren Jackson Jr.'s game first because he played really well, but I'm going to pick on Roddy right now. Roddy had 11 points. He had 3 assists. He had 2 rebounds. In the last 6 games, Roddy is averaging 12.2 points per game, averaging around 27, 28 minutes per game. Roddy's last 6 games are the highest scoring 6-game span of his entire career. You could argue this might be the best Roddy's ever played. David, stop shooting so many 3-pointers. The 3-pointers Roddy is choosing to take are ones the other team is allowing and daring him to shoot. And they're daring him to shoot because they know their personnel. They know Roddy is a bad above-the-break 3-point shooter. Roddy took and missed 4 wing 3-pointers in this game. 3 of them were with 8 or more seconds left on the shot clock. Roddy has got to stop shooting these threes. He's terrible at them. For the season, he's 19 out of 74 on wing 3-pointers. That's 25.7% 3-point accuracy. His rookie year, last year, he was 28 out of 91 on wing 3-pointers, which is significantly better, but still bad. 30.8%. This is a thing he is very bad at. Stop doing it. He needs to study the tape of Kyle Anderson, of Vince Williams Jr., of Naz Reid, and learn to pump fake. You can trick your defender who's daring you to shoot that 3 into thinking, hey, you know what, I'm going to shoot it, and get him to react and then go past him. Look at the rim. Raise the ball. Pretend you're going up. I'm just describing a pump fake. But the guy has to add a pump fake to his game. When David Roddy puts the ball on the ground and goes towards the basket, not bad. Pretty effective. He had a huge dunk in this one. Maybe he set up that huge dunk by bricking so many threes earlier. But I really think he could add a pump fake to his game and his three-point shooting would be much more effective. I'm not telling him not to take open three-pointers. I'm not telling him not to take corner three-pointers. Roddy is a below-average three-point shooter, but he's a shooter. And if he's open, take them. But there are times you see players who have open threes, and if there's 9 seconds left on the shot clock, guess what they do? They try and get a better shot for someone else. I know Taylor Jenkins had that "let that mother fly" was his mantra for three-point shooting the past couple seasons. You can't have that for all of the players on our team. They're below average shooters. They're bad shooters. You can't just keep launching three-pointers, especially when there's time left on the shot clock. Get a better shot. It's driving me nuts watching Roddy play. And maybe you think I'm being hypocritical, where I'm comfortable with Xavier Tillman shooting threes, and you think, well, why am I criticizing Roddy for shooting threes? To be explicitly clear, I think you understand this. I want Tillman to shoot threes when he's wide open. I also want Roddy to shoot threes when he's wide open. But when Nick Vucevic is maybe daring you to shoot a wing three off of a pin down, maybe don't concede that, all right, I will take this shot, a shot I'm making at a 26% rate for the season. Maybe, I don't know, try to pump fake it. Get Vooch to move one step closer to you so you can go by him off the dribble. You would think Nick Vucevic could not guard David Roddy off the dribble. He didn't put it to the test. Roddy has got to shoot the ball better. But it's a team-wide problem. I mean, he took 42 threes. I've been saying it all year. There's so many of these games where you're taking a large majority of your shots from the three-point line, and you're not a good three-point shooting team. I mean, Luke Kennard, amazing at shooting threes. Luke Kennard, 4 out of 7 on his threes. Luke Kennard is on yet another heater. He's brought his season-long three-point average up to 43%. He's making well over half of his three-pointers in the past 6-7 games. Luke had 14 points in this one. Had 6 assists. Luke Kennard, you have the green light. Shoot as many threes as you like. Everybody else, you got to pick your spots. You have to start attacking these teams. You got to go inside out sometimes. If your first action, like we saw this a couple times, a lot in the first half, the Grizzlies have the ball handler, a screener would come up, the help defender would take like one step closer, leaving one of our players open on the wing. We would throw that first pass to them. This is like your first moderately okay look, and we would launch that three-pointer. And then when that shot went up, no one's rebounding. Everyone's running back to get back on defense. You had one offensive rebound through 3 quarters. That's incomprehensible to me with the poor field goal shooting that we have in this game. But I picked on Roddy too much. Let's talk about Jaren Jackson Jr. I thought Jaren was pretty good. Jaren had 26 points and 5 assists. This is the 3rd game of the season for Jaren with 5 or more assists. Coming into this year, he only had 2 games with 5 or more assists. Jaren's averaging a season high, a career high on assists per game. Still a very paltry 1.8, but absolutely Jaren is doing a better job sharing the basketball, keeping his head up. And in this game, the Bulls were sending double teams at him quickly. They were always sending a second guy. And so this game was a good exercise for Jaren to get better at passing, moving the ball, and I thought he did that. Jaren also got to the foul line a lot, something he's been doing all year. Jaren was 9 out of 9 on his free throws. He's also averaging a career high on free throw attempts per game and free throw percentage. So I thought Jaren was pretty good. I thought Jaren played well enough. Vince Williams Jr. Frankly, I'll be honest, I was nervous for Vince coming into this game because he had to guard DeMar DeRozan. I was worried about what Ant did to him in the second half of last game. I thought it'd be a big challenge for Vince. I thought Vince did a good job. Now, Vince got a steal on DeMar early in the game, and I was like, oh, yeah, here we go. This could be a great game. Bulls aren't that good. We're going to compete. We're going to fight hard. It's going to be a great game. It was not a great game. But I thought Vince, once again, he keeps standing up game after game to the rigors of the season and looks great. Vince had 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and that steal. He made 3 out of his 6 3-point attempts. As I would like to say, one of the world's biggest Vince Williams Jr. fans, I had concerns that his 3-point shooting from earlier in the year would regress. It would come crashing back down. I didn't believe he was an above average 3-point shooter. And for a while there, it did come back down. He stopped making his 3-pointers. Well, Vince is making 3-pointers again. Vince now, in his last 8 games, he's making 42% of his 3-pointers. That is on 2.3 makes per game. Since he came back from missing a couple of games, he's averaging 13 points, 6.3 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 1.5 steals, shooting 42% from 3, 85% from the line. He also keeps drawing all those offensive fouls, those illegal screens, those loose ball fouls on defense. He's got a knack for that. Vince continues to impress. Vince continues to be amazing. Vince played very well in this game. Wasn't enough. Good games from Luke, good games from Jaren, good games from Vince. Everybody else, not so much. Now, the Grizzlies were outscored in the paint. This goes back to the 3-point shooting problem. Your shot selection. The Grizzlies were outscored in the paint 52-34. They lost second chance scoring 17-4. They lost fast break points 18-5. All that goes back to you have to diversify your offense, in my opinion. You can't just do the one thing, which is having mostly bad 3-point shooters shooting threes. Now, with Aldama, I thought that would hopefully help the offense. It did not. The Grizzlies did not score very well while Aldama was on the court. I don't know how much of that you lay at Santi's feet and kind of the erratic season he has had. He made 1 out of 5 threes. Looking at the 3-pointers that Santi took, a lot of them are bad shots. Like his first 3-point attempt of the game was a heat check. It's like 3 feet behind the line. Just pulling up. He's not open. Santi has bad shooting percentages this year. I don't understand what the Grizzlies are doing with their offense. I mean, you want to empower everybody, give everybody the green light. And I'm kind of done with that. But Santi, once again, did not seize the opportunity that was given to him. He finished a pretty grotesque -25 in plus-minus. Of course, we know single game plus-minus, not a big deal, but the year's going very poorly for him. He did block a couple of shots. He's been blocking shots recently. He got 8 defensive rebounds, 3 assists. But it was not like a game where you're like, oh, good job, Santi. It was once again kind of the what's the deal with Santi in this one. Now, Conchar got the start. Conchar tied a season high with 6 assists, got 2 rebounds, turned the ball over 3 times, scored 2 points. So he just did kind of jitty things. Now, the bench. Okay, I already picked on Roddy a little bit. Unfortunately, we need to talk about Ziaire Williams. Let's do that right after this quick break. If you want to play fantasy sports for cash, you can do that at Underdog Fantasy. You can do daily fantasy and private drafts against your friends. You can also play against strangers. You can pick higher or lowers against their stat projections and really rack up the winnings. Also, if you sign up for Underdog Fantasy right now using promo code FBBF, Underdog will match your opening deposit up to $100. So if all that sounds appealing to you, give Underdog Fantasy a try. Use that promo code FBBF or click the link in this episode's description. All right, a lot of the frustration about this loss and the way it got out of hand for the Grizzlies lands at the feet of Ziaire Williams. Ziaire Williams, who had such a promising preseason and who talked such a big game, and obviously is the 10th pick from a couple seasons ago. We had a lot of hopes that he would step up and be the answer for the Grizzlies on the wing. And he's had some good games this year, but overall, it's been kind of a nightmare. Now, everyone has correctly pointed out that of all the players on the roster, Ziaire might depend the most on Ja Morant. Also, Ja Morant benefits, I think, at times from having Ziaire Williams. Ziaire is the best lob catcher on the team right now. Ziaire is fast. He fills the wings on fast breaks, maybe as good as anybody on the team or better than anybody. In the half court, he cuts along the baseline and catches alley-oops. He's very good at all these things. Unfortunately, he's bad at everything else. He's been okay at hitting corner threes. Some of the playmaking we saw in the preseason hasn't really, shown itself in the regular season. My criticism of Ziaire forever was he was robotic in all his movements. The only time he looks fluid and natural is when he's catching an alley-oop. When he's just doing the thing we call playing basketball, it looks kind of weird to me. He looks like NBA 2K animations strung together, where he's learned this move, he's learned this thing, he knows he's supposed to be doing these things, but he doesn't look like he's comfortable or have feel. And right now, I think kind of the wheels have come off the wagon here for Ziaire. He was so bad in this game, and he's now put together 4 just miserable performances in a row. Ziaire was 2 out of 9 against the Bulls. The 2 makes, they were layups. Missed every jump shot. In his past 4 games, Ziaire is 6 out of 28 on field goal attempts. That is 21%. He was a minus 29 in this game. And of course, single game plus minus does not matter. But last game, he was a minus 23 against the Timberwolves. His last 4 games, he overall is a minus 74. For the season, the Grizzlies get outscored on average by 15.5 points per 100 possessions when he's on the court. And I was looking at all those 2-man net ratings for the Grizzlies, and it's a little bit comical. The only player Ziaire Williams has a positive net rating with this season is Ja Morant. They didn't get to play that much together, but they had a plus 2.2 net rating. With everyone else, his net ratings are horrible. This season, if he's on the court without Ja Morant, and we're talking 1,300 possessions, according to Cleaning the Glass, Ziaire Williams' net rating is negative 17.8. That is, I feel like, uniquely bad for the years I've been tracking this stuff, keeping up with this stuff. That is so horrible. 1,300 possessions is not a small sample size. The guy's been killing you out there, and I don't know what you're supposed to do about it. I kind of feel like you can't really trade him for anything. Like, everyone knows he's bad, so I don't really want to give up on him. You don't want to trade somebody at their lowest value point. I don't know if they would just want to move on from him to get his salary off the books for next year. Personally, because they've already picked up his 4th-year option, you have to make those decisions, before the season starts. I assume you just bring him back and you hope Ja's healthy next year and he can look better next to Ja, and he's still young and he gets better. But Ziaire has been awful of late, and I don't know what you're supposed to do about it. It's all just so upsetting when you think about Ziaire. I mean, he's shooting a career low 39% right now. Like 39% from the field. He's gone down each season he's been in the NBA. He looks unplayable. And I know you're missing all your players, but I don't know if I'd play him. At the very least, you can't play him with a bunch of other second stringers. I was really surprised they kept their rotation pretty similar to how they ran it in the Timberwolves game. They threw out Jacob Gilyard and Ziaire and Gigi Jackson all at the same time with Roddy. You can't do that. You can't do that. I mean, they held their own, sorta, in the third quarter. They didn't score, but the other team didn't score, so we'll call that a win. But you're just getting destroyed when those guys are out on the court. Like, Jacob Gilyard had 3 points. He made 1 out of 3 threes. He had 1 assist in 16 minutes. I mean, Gilyard, his net rating's terrible. I don't think he's an NBA player. I mean, he's at best a fringe NBA player. Here's something I found out about Jacob Gilyard that I did not know before today. Jacob Gilyard has never missed a free throw in his NBA career. 26 career games. He's still 100% from the line. How many free throws has he shot, you ask? Oh, 1. He shot 1 free throw in 26 games. He's played 451 minutes and taken 1 free throw. That might be more remarkable than Ziaire Williams' negative 17.8 net rating when playing with anybody but Ja Morant. Like, Gilyard's not the guy. Ziaire is looking unplayable. GG Jackson, all right, we got so excited about GG Jackson. I got so excited about GG Jackson. He had those 2 monster games in a row, scoring 20 points or more in both of them. You know, how does he follow that up? Well, it was disappointing because the Timberwolves didn't play very much and had a bad game. Airball to 3, basically got taken out. In this one, he still had to play in some pretty garbage lineups, and he's not like the savior, I don't think, and he's not like good yet. But I do definitely want to see him play with more of the talented players. They did that, actually. So he came in initially and played with all the bench guys, and it was ugly. But then he got in near the end of the second quarter where they put him back in to play alongside Vince and Jaren, and guess what? It looked much better. I mean, everyone's going to look better playing with the best players usually, unless your name's Ziaire Williams. I mean, everybody who has their own favorite player, the Santi Aldama defenders are like, oh, but you got to play him with the better players more. All right, sure. Everyone's going to look a little bit better. But GG Jackson specifically, I think because the ceiling is so high, like, I'm not going to learn anything, I don't think, about him playing alongside Jacob Gilyard and David Roddy and Ziaire Williams. I do want to see how he plays when he's playing with, you know, Vince and Jaren and Luke. And GG made both of his threes in this game, so that's good. That's good to see the shots still going in. He was not a particularly good three-point shooter in the hustle, so I still think maybe he's a little bit high on his percentages so far. But made both of his threes, scored 10 points in 18 minutes. So a pretty fine showing from GG Jackson. Let's just see him play a little bit more, I think, with Jaren and with Vince and maybe, I don't know, who are other good players? With Tillman, if Tillman comes back. Tillman is questionable for the game against the Raptors on Monday night. I don't know. There's not a lot of good answers. I try to keep that in mind when I shake my head at how some of the bench guys are playing. Scottie Pippen Jr., I guess we can wrap up that Scottie Pippen Jr. got in the game. The newest Grizzlies player. He scored his first points as a Grizzly in that one. And I think that's all we need to talk about this game. I guess to close up, we can mention a few trade rumors that are kind of out there that might apply to the Grizzlies. I mean, one, there's this credibly sourced report that the Grizzlies have inquired about Quentin Grimes from the Knicks. That's sort of interesting. I feel like shooting guard is the position of least need for the Grizzlies, so I don't know exactly what they would be doing there. I mean, it seems likely that would mean that the Grizzlies would be trading probably Luke Kennard in this situation because you don't need Quentin Grimes and Luke Kennard and Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart and Vince Williams Jr. That didn't make any sense. So I thought that was interesting that apparently the Grizzlies have inquired, according to some credible reporters, have inquired about Quentin Grimes. Also, there's this report that the Pelicans are open to moving Herb Jones, and that's a sit up and listen moment for me. Herb Jones, I think, would be awesome on the Grizzlies. I think you could get away with playing Herb and Jaren as a 4-5 combination. I think that would work quite well. I mean, Herb is definitely a lower usage offensive player. That's great. Ideally, next year, we're going to have Ja, Dez, and Jaren. We need low usage offensive players. He's an elite defender. The idea of having Herb Jones and Jaren and Marcus Smart and Vince Williams Jr., that sounds incredible. So if Herb Jones is available, that is something that I would definitely be monitoring if I'm the Grizzlies and to see if I can get involved with that in any way. I mean, everything else for the Grizzlies remains, you know, we got the trade deadline coming up in just a little over 2 weeks. And there are a lot of questions for the Grizzlies. Are they going to try to move John Konchar's salary? Are they going to do something with Luke Kennard? Are they going to bring in anybody for the rest of this year that they think can help going into next year? Are they going to try to clean up a roster spot or clear up a roster spot so they can add Gigi Jackson to the regular roster so they don't take him into free agency next year? What happens with Xavier Tillman in his expiring contract this year? A lot of questions for the Grizz, and so obviously that's something I'll be talking about in upcoming episodes. Anyways, thanks everybody for listening to this episode. If you want to support the creation of this episode, if you want to join my Slack channel where we talk about the Grizzlies around the clock and all kinds of other things, it is a Slack channel for all NBA fans. There is a Grizzlies specific Grits and Grinds channel if that's all you want. You can get access to that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. And of course, that is the most direct way to support the creation of this show, patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. And then hopefully I will see several of you guys this Friday night at Noble's Beer Hall. Friday, January 26th, the game's at 7 p.m., Grizzlies against the Magic. Come watch the team with me and win some prizes over at Noble's Beer Hall. All right. Hope you guys have a great Monday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.